Hello, in this overview I just want to show you how to use the Manage Groups section to create a new group and then add your students to that group using the student group code. Everything in here you see is fake. There's nothing real. These are all fake user accounts. It's my local version. So I'm going to go into the Manage Groups area, and in here we've got sort of three main things that you can do. You can edit an existing group, join an existing group, or create a new group. We're going to create a new group. I'm going to call this Testing Group Things. You'd call that obviously, the name of your class, or possibly the name of a group of students who aren't in a class. So it's worth noting at this point that groups are quite flexible. The reason we call them groups, not classes, is because you can use groups quite flexibly. So typically most people will just create a group which is a class of students or a year group in their subject matter. However, there's nothing to stop you having students in more than one group at the same time. So one way that we know that teachers use this is they'll create a group for their class, that's all the students in the class, and then maybe they'll create another group or maybe a couple of groups so that one of those groups might be for the struggling learners in that class, and another of the groups might be for the people who are doing a bit well and need a bit more challenge, and then you can set your question collections to those little groups as well, those small groups, so that you end up with students who have got slightly different things set to them. All of them would have the stuff set to the class group, and then maybe the struggling learners that have something to help them set to that little group, and then the gifted ones might get some slightly harder stuff. So you can just kind of tailor exactly what you are setting to your students by using these sort of groups. They're not groups within groups, they're separate groups, but they are groups with those students in both those groups. That might sound a little bit confusing. You'll find that once you've used this a little bit, it's not too bad. Okay, so I'm not going to cover a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of stuff in here, and this is for other tutorials, but I just want to literally cover getting students into the system. So I've created this new group called Testing Group Things. It's not the best name really, but there we go. And I want to add some students. So I'm going to click on Add Students to Group. There we go. Okay, so there are two main ways you can do this. You can add students via the group code, and this is the recommended way of doing it. Honestly, it is definitely the most secure, and it's the least hassle for you and all the rest of it. And basically the idea is that the students would take the group code, or you would give them the group code. Make sure that you do this securely. Please do not share this group with anyone publicly. This is just for you and your students. And basically you just give them that group code, and they will then go and create their account and enter that group code as they do so. If they already have a group code, if they already have an oodlü account, then they can also enter that group code from within their account as well. So they just log in and then click on the button that says enter group code. The other way you can do it is to generate and upload your students as a list, and that means you can either generate them by entering some details here, or you can upload a CSV of existing students, but that's covered in a different tutorial, so I'd suggest if you'd like to do that, you go and hunt out our other tutorial on that. For now I'm just going to use the group code method, and you'll notice here that that we've got this group code that's written quite small here. One of the things you might want to do with your students though is display this group code to your students on your whiteboard. So we've given this option where you can click on the group code within the list there, just so you can see that was where I clicked on student group code there, and that will display it large. So you can display it large onto your whiteboard, and you can say to students to just put that directly in on their computers or tablets or whatever they're using at the time. So again, please don't put this out on Twitter and things. We had a few times when that happens, and that's not great, because it means that anyone can join the group, which obviously isn't appropriate. So, whilst I'm on that, actually, we have a mechanism for dealing with adding an extra level of security, because obviously security is very important with these things. and that is the ability to lock the group. So once you have got all your students into that group, you really should lock the group. You'll notice, in fact, that the teachers at the moment this is locked for teachers. So in other words, no teachers can join this group, because there is also the ability for teachers to join with a group code. This is locked for teachers at the moment by default, but it's not locked for students by default, because of course the most likely thing you're going to want to do is get your students on board. But you can lock it, and you should lock it after you've done it. So after your students have joined. So if you go to the group drop down and go to group settings, once you've got all your students into the group, you should click on this lock group to prevent students from joining the group code, and click on save. That will lock the group so that even if anyone has that group code, they can't join your group anymore, and that's really important. But for now I'm going to have it unlocked, because obviously we want our students to be able to join, and our students are going to join with this code here. So I'm just going to copy this to my clipboard, because I'm actually going to use this same browser session to join as a student now. So now I'm going to log out, and I'm going to go to, so you'd send the students to oodlü.org, and they would then click on students and register. And it says to create a student account. Obviously you don't want to let them put in their real name as their username. It's just possible that the username might be visible to other people in the system, so you really don't want to use their real name. Use something that is not their real name. I'm going to call this one Rocket Boy. Okay, and I'm going to put in a password for that, and I'm going to confirm the password. And then here is where you need to put in the group code. So that's where they put in the group code. We need to actually remove this, agree terms and conditions. And that's it. That's it. They click on continue, and their account will be created. And the first thing that they can do is they can have a play with their emoji in here, and they can change the color a little bit, and then click on start. So that's it. They are actually in the group now. We haven't set anything to the students, so it won't appear here yet. So you would want to set some stuff to your students, and that we can, I'll show you in a second. But that's, the student is now in the group. So if I now log out and log back in again as the teacher, and go into my manage groups and go to testing group things, there is Rocket Boy within the student list. Obviously there's only one student, all of them would appear here. That is literally how you add your students using a group code. And of course now that I've got my students in here, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to lock my group so that no other students can join. And now you'll find that anyone else who tries to join cannot join with that group code. So that is that. Anyway, hopefully that's good, and thank you very much.